This meeting has been called to inform you about a major problem that recently threatened the very existence of Disney Corporation. To put it bluntly, our entire resource base was on the verge of collapse. Not only were Disney and all of its infrastructure shut down, but the human subconscious mind itself nearly lost its ability to generate dreams and fantasies. How did this happen? As many of you know, the discovery of fairy tales as an exploitable resource in 1937 still stands as Walt Disney's greatest contribution. As Walt told it, he woke up in the middle of the night from a nightmare in which an old witch was offering him an apple. What Walt understood was not only that the image came from the fairy tale Snow White, but that the old witch and the apple go back much farther in human history than the fairy tales, farther back in fact than the invention of the one-eyed tear and the problem-solving hug. Indeed, ever since man first walked upright, the fundamental mysteries of existence itself have expressed themselves in images and symbols. The apple, symbol of knowledge; the witch, symbol of the moon in its waning phase, or death; the sloth, symbol of sloth, and so on. These ancient archetypal images were absorbed into human minds and decayed over the centuries to form the collective unconscious, the fossil fuel of the mind. From this well of archetypes, images, tropes, what you will, arise the images that haunt our dreams and fuel our stories. Now, of course, many of these stories have come to us in the form of myths and fairy tales, but the great idea that Disney had was to lay claim of ownership to the collective unconscious. That allowed us to mine these crude myths, form them into units, and sell them back to the public as processed versions of their former selves. The public reception to Snow White was immediate and intense. Even Adolf Hitler himself drew versions of the images. It was a happy time, but no one ever dreamed that we would one day encounter the menace that threatened us recently. But more on that later. And so immediately a product analysis department was set up to analyze exactly what we had done right with Snow White. Was it the singing using an operatic voice which appealed to the parents? Was it the calm and peaceful rendering of nature? No. It was three things. The first was fear. At the first viewing of Snow White, half of the seats at the Radio City Music Hall had to be replaced because the children had urinated on them. Second was the cute dwarfs, representatives of stunted, non-threatening masculinity. Third, of course, was the princess herself. The prince was generic, superfluous, barely had a face, but all the girls wanted to be the princess. And so began the great era of the princess movies. With the advent of superior technologies, we were increasingly able to classify and codify every significant gesture, pose, and scenario that would be included in our stories. Over the years, improved technology allowed us to provide not only the aforementioned problem-solving hug and one-eyed tear, but more complex emotions like sly flirtiness, the raised eyebrow, the hair falling over the forehead, the skeptical sidelong glance, etc. Thus we were able to make Disney so indispensable that it became not just a part of life, but a part of the primary story of existence itself. As you know, the primary story of existence began in 22,003 BC with the discovery of the moon. Worshipped as a goddess, the moon in its three phases was the primary contributor of images to the collective unconscious. Disney's goal was to become so powerful that it could insinuate itself into the most fundamental fact of existence, the circle of life. It was our success with princesses that allowed us to accomplish this. It certainly wasn't the boys. We have a square-mile warehouse dedicated solely to the storage of unsold Aladdin costumes. The Corporate Analysis Department was renamed the Department of Corporate Feminism. They were responsible for mapping the circle of life onto the timeline of the contemporary female and produced the following: stages of life. Such astonishing success was heady, but came at a price. Sometime in the 1980s we were confronted with generations of women that had grown up as princesses. These angry women were leaning in. They wanted the power of witches, but they wanted to stay pretty. In short, they wanted it all. So you think, what the hell? It's all made up anyway, isn't it? Not so fast. Our princesses now had to conform not only to the dictates of childish power fantasies, but to the demands of corporate feminism. Corporate feminism sneered at our cash cow, love's first kiss. They didn't want their own little princesses getting suckered into bed with losers posing as princes. It was all we could do to keep our princesses out of pantsuits and sensible shoes. The princesses became increasingly feisty and independent. They didn't need a prince, they needed a job. Our feisty heroine in The Princess and the Frog dreamt not of a prince and a castle, but of opening her own restaurant. There hadn't been such a jejune hero quest since Rudolph's friend Herbie dreamt of being a dentist. It began to become clear what was going on, why we were upending expectations, throwing in superfluous characters, expanding the singing numbers to cover up for a fundamental problem. Our miners were extremely concerned. They were digging deeper wells in the collective unconscious and coming up with sludge. Had we reached peak story? The answer soon presented itself. In 1967, our miners had brought up from the depths a practically unusable mass of sludge called the Snow Queen. Well, we didn't think much of it and put it in a storage tank. But by 2012 we were reduced to opening up that old tank and trying to salvage what we could of this miserable raw material. The result was the debacle known as Frozen. The Department of Corporate Feminism mandated that the heroine's young boyfriend become her sister. The evil Snow Queen was removed entirely and replaced by this sister and her sexual issues. The robber girl was replaced by a dullard male with a reindeer. It was mandated that we somehow transfer the evil from the Snow Queen to a male character, yet she had to retain her magic power. In order to accomplish this, we were forced to take the heroine from Wicked and stick her in the middle of our story. We even got the same actress to play her. The result was extremely slim pickings indeed. What a burden on the back of our heroines. With so little story left, we were forced to bring to bear our full repertoire of gestures, poses, and defiant expressions of newly gained freedom and self-assertion, devoid of any discernible context. The height of all this is the scene of Elsa's transformation. It begins with a very old trope indeed, the stamped foot, from the toddler's repertoire of tantrum gambits. We then move on to the hair toss. Hair is power. You go, girl. And then... Holy shit! What's happened? Damn, girl. Oh, my God, she's shaking it. Oh, no, please, not again. She's practically twerking. You're not a good little girl any more, are you? The attitude! Look at that eyebrow height differential our engineers were able to achieve. Snow White couldn't move her eyebrows at all. Ah, the whirl-away. Don't leave me. A closed door. Oldest trope in the book. So what was that? Are you wicked or simply misunderstood? In your power? Self-actualized? Chaste? Or just a hoochie mama without a mate? Gay, perhaps? We don't know. We haven't the slightest idea. We threw up our hands, threw the film out to the public, and covered our ears. And then the strangest thing happened. The receipts were through the roof. The critics went wild. Every one of them had a different interpretation. Most puzzling was the little girls. Studies showed that they preferred the powerful and dangerous Elsa by a ratio of 47-1 over the heroic and chaste role model Anna. It seems the men don't know what the little girls understand. We were completely baffled, but suddenly it hit us. Everyone was seeing what they wanted to see. Why? Because there was nothing there. It was a tour de force of gestures and tropes, pure attitude. They were conferring meaning onto a void. The implications are staggering. We realized that our success rested not on the depleted collective unconscious, but on the twin renewable resources of infantile power fantasies and bottomless wells of self-pity. Send out the memos. No more collective unconscious. We've closed down the mind. We don't need story. We don't need meaning. We are complete. We are absolute. We are Disney.